in this context of emissions and per capita emissions and consumption, that they're favouring population control. Well, I obviously have to ask you first, since you have 10 children, whether to respond to whether you think it is necessary or relevant or what.
Well, at the moment we have seen, for example, there are very populous nations, isn't it? Very populous nations, but you are doing better than those countries that are depopulated now. So really the question is economic growth that must exceed population growth. I think that should be the way. Already, for example, climate change is slowing down growth rates naturally because of the diseases, so the death rates are increasing. So I don't see why we need extra policy really to slow down. Really, the policy should be towards increasing economic growth.
Okay. That's, well, you're next to a country that's taken quite a strong population policy, China. So do you have a view on whether population is an issue in this debate about climate change?
Well, I feel like generally, like, it all depends upon where you stand. Like, if you are standing in an environment which have got enough resource to suffice the basic needs of human, I think it's not a harm to have the population to a certain level. But in an environment like ours, like in Bhutan, like we live in a very fragile mountain ecosystem, and we have very less agricultural lands. So if there is a steady rise in the population, like it will have a major impact on the economy of the country. And that itself is one initiative that the Ministry of Health has taken up to do this population control advocacy.
What's the population of Bhutan, just as a matter of interest?
Well, we have just less than over, say, like 600,000 people, all in all.
Okay, I don't think you're adding to the burdens of the world, really, are you? And Zambia is?
Zambia is 14, average, 14 persons per square kilometer. It's very sparsely populated.
Yes, there is of course, the size, the population does relate to the country. Okay, the questions are still coming. So just to remind you, this is George Kasali from an NGO in Zambia and a lecturer at Copperbelt University, and Dago Tshering from Bhutan. If the West can provide support to developing countries through technology, infrastructure, or education, or other things, what particular things would be of most help to you? Shall I ask you first, George, to respond to that?
In terms of definitely developing countries, poor countries, one of the main reasons why they are unable to overcome the shocks imposed by climate change is inadequate technological responses. Definitely the first and foremost, like in our situation, is food security. So technologies that go into enhancing food productivity, those would help a lot. On the other hand, we also need technologies to help processing those food crops that are produced, so as we can be able to add value, and that would enhance definitely the earning power of the households and the country in general. So those would be, I think, the target technologies.
Yes, that would be your choice. I have to say, just underline that technology transfer is a very big issue at these talks for the 2 weeks, because many developing countries are saying, well, if you want us to change to cleaner technologies and better technologies, it's no good patenting them and making them incredibly expensive, because we can't afford it. So that there has to be some transfer of technology at reasonable rates. Otherwise, please don't ask us to change our ways. And there's quite a bitter debate, I think, going on about that. I don't know how that'll play out yet. But can I put the same question to you, which was, you know, if the West could provide support to developing countries through technology, infrastructure, or education, or whatever it is, what do you think would be most useful to Bhutan or developing countries as a whole, if you prefer?
Well, I should say, like, in the first place, like, Bhutan is not very aware of, as I've mentioned earlier, like, we are very new into this climate change science. So it is very necessary for the developed countries to help us in areas like capacity building, tech transfer, and the most important thing is to talk about is the financing. Like it's very important for donors to come forward to help us in taking this conservation initiatives that we are initiating on.
Okay, time is, I know it's getting a bit tight now, so let me put to you a question that we asked an NGO who's pressing them and therefore a nuisance, and what sort of feedback you get from them about the state of the negotiations so far.
Well, in Zambia, NGOs are an accepted arm of development. We participate in national development programs. We contribute to formulation of national policies. So there is nothing against NGOs. We are accepted as a partner in development. Well, right here, in terms of expectations, we expect definitely that there will be commitments, especially beyond the 2012 when the Kyoto, the agreement, this current agreement on GHG emission reductions elapses. That will be commitments from the north. And then the other thing which is awaited eagerly is the adaptation fund. It must be increased. It must match the demands from developing countries so that developing countries could be helped to adapt to the adverse impacts of climate change.
Okay, can I put the same question to you too?
Yeah, I should say, like, taking the advantage of less population in Bhutan, like, we almost know everyone in our country. And our kind of rapport with the government delegates, it's like we know each other very well. And indeed, my organization, Royal Society for Protection of Nature, it's indeed the only environment NGO in Bhutan, and we closely work with the government associates. So, like, we have been faring enough, like, very comfortable talking with them about our position, about our country's issues, and it always come up in a very open forum. So the discussion is quite fruitful.
Rather than just the North telling the South to find new energy sources and new ways of developing, why not insist that the industrialized countries, I think this is what the question is saying, themselves switch over to this strategy? Not just a lifestyle change, but actual changes in the use of energy and that they themselves use.
Well, from what I've heard here, I've heard some developing countries, those that have resources, let's call them middle-income developing countries. They already have plans to introduce efficiencies or introduce technologies that will not lead to global warming. But what they are insisting is that this must be voluntary. We shouldn't be pushed. And first of all, we need to see the North taking the lead that they are doing something about it. But otherwise, I've heard commitments from developing countries to look for another path, given the resources.
Yeah, okay, I have to be quick now. We've got a minute left. I don't know if you even want to tackle such a big question in a minute, but have a go at it.
Yeah, well, my point here is I would like to say, like, what's very important is, like, yes, of course, like, we can go for other sort of energy, but it needs to be clean energy so that it doesn't bring any forward, like, implication on climate change.
That's to the point. Thank you very, very much. Not just national happiness in Bhutan, but very pointed comments. So I think we have to stop. So thanks very much, George Kasali from Zambia and Dago Tshering from Bhutan. It was very nice to have you here. It's great to have other voices coming in from. You get so tired sitting in and listening to the official talks, and you forget the real problems. And actually, just to remind people that actually what this negotiation is an agreement to negotiate. We're not going to come up with any solutions at the end of this fortnight. Amazingly, what people are trying to agree on is an agreement to talk for 2 years, and what will be in those talks is what's being discussed. So we won't get dramatic changes, but maybe we'll get something. So thank you very, very much indeed. And that's it from One Climate tonight on Second Life. Thanks for the questions, great questions. And please do send them in, because I know the guests we've had tonight will be around a little longer. So if you've got more questions, I will ask you and ask them, and we'll get back to you with any answers that they provide. And tomorrow we'll be back at the same time with some more participants. So look forward to meeting you then. Thanks very, very much from myself, Daniel Nelson of OneWorld UK, and Jeffrey Allen, who you can't see, from OneWorld US.